All right, welcome to the Bible in 5. In this video, we're going to be talking about the book of Lamentations. It's a pretty short book. It's only 5 chapters. It comes after the book of Jeremiah, which is one of the longest books in the Old Testament. But I wanted to take a video just to focus in, because this is actually an extremely important book in the Old Testament, and it's one that doesn't get very much attention, especially by Christians. So the main setting for the book of Lamentations is the exile. So if you're reading it after Jeremiah, that's precisely where the book of Jeremiah ends. The people have gone into exile in Babylon. And essentially what this book is it's 5 separate poems, all of which are just exploring the pain and the difficulty, the frustration, the confusion that the people of Israel have as to their experience of suffering and exile. So the book is called Lamentations, and that's because the type of poetry in all 5 of these chapters is a specific type that's very common in ancient Israel. If you read through the book of Psalms, you'll come across it. These are laments. And for the most part, in our culture here today, we don't lament or really have laments. But what this is a way, literally, of voicing your grief, and not just crying or something like that, but literally going all out and just exploring your grief and letting it just take you right to the bottom. And this is an extremely important form of how we relate to Yahweh in the midst of the people's exile, but in the midst of our own hardship and suffering. The 5 poems are really interesting because chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4, they're alphabet poems. If you look in most of your English translations, they'll indicate to you that each stanza of each of these poems begins with the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, the second stanza begins with the second letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and so on, right on down the line to the last letter. And so this is a very powerful form. Essentially, what these first 4 chapters are doing is they are venting Israel's grief and anger and frustration about the exile. And they're doing it's as if they're saying, here's our suffering from A to Z. They're 4 alphabet poems. And so even though they're full of grief and disorder and confusion, the form of the chapters is very ordered and symmetrical as it moves through Israel's suffering from A to Z. The last chapter, the last poem, however, abandons the alphabet format, and it just kind of goes all out. And in many ways, it's sort of like the unraveling of the people's grief. They're able to hold their composure together for at least the first 4 chapters, but in the 5th, the alphabet is just lost, and it's just an all-out lament poem. The power of this book is that it is not God's words to the people. This is the prophets, and it's Israel's words to God, lamenting, asking God, why have you allowed this? Now, as you read the prophets, you actually know why the exile happened. It happened because Israel abandoned other gods, abandoned Yahweh to go and follow other gods. But that doesn't take away the pain of exile. The exile meant the loss of all of what they thought was Yahweh's faithfulness to them, the kingship, the temple, living in the land. And so essentially what these poems do is they show an appropriate response to when the bottom falls out of the lives of God's people. And we think, you need to be happy or just trust that God has a plan. And yes, those are true. I don't know about the be happy part, but the trusting that God has a plan. But what this book shows is that even if you do trust God, it's completely appropriate to just pound your fists on God's chest and to give voice to your frustration and to your grief and spell it out from A to Z. And so this is a very powerful book. It's a book of emotion and passion. There's not a lot of intense theology in terms of beliefs or ideas or doctrine developed in the book. That's not really the point. The point is to give God's people a place to help give us language that we can come to God with when we're frustrated and confused and don't know what He's doing, or if He's abandoned us altogether. And so there's a few notes of hope throughout the book that even amidst the problem of exile, that God's going to be faithful. But for the most part, this is just a realistic look at life and suffering that God's people have. So it's a powerful book. Don't read it quickly. Spend some time with it. And this is a book to come back to throughout your own journey as a follower of Christ. teaching us how to truly grieve and lament over the difficult things that happen in our lives. So I hope that's helpful as a way of thinking about the book of Lamentations, and you're going to find it very powerful. So there you go. Hope that's helpful. We'll see you next time.